Welcome to the Sky Therapeutics podcast. I'm your host, Tara Torres, a clinical nutritionist, researcher, educator, and consultant specializing in areas of weight loss, autoimmune disease, gastrointestinal disorders, metabolic syndrome, and other obesity-related conditions. I help clients improve their health through proper functional nutrition, professional-grade supplement protocols, exercise recommendations, education, and support using a personalized, evidence-based approach. At Sky Therapeutics, we offer functional nutrition solutions for chronic disease and help our clients develop sustainable lifestyle habits that will last a lifetime. As a friendly reminder, the information and opinions provided here today is to be taken as general information only, and you should always contact your personal physician or other qualified healthcare professional if you have any questions about your personal health and wellness. Welcome to this week's podcast, where I'm actually going to be posting a recording of an interview I did with our personal trainer, John Waters. John had asked me to come and do a Facebook Live segment with him where he had acquired a few different questions from people in his private Facebook group. And basically what we wanted to talk about was eating on the go and different meal prep tips. But some of the other questions that came up during that live segment included discussing the best diet for gut health. We talked about meal prep to boost metabolism. One of the questions that came up at the time of the call was whether or not fermented foods were good or bad for gut health. We also dove into meal prep tips and meals on the go for kids in particular. And then we also discussed leftover tips and tricks for people who have issues with leftovers, whether it's a histamine intolerance or simple like texture dislike leftovers type of thing. So if any of those are something that interests you, you'll definitely want to stay tuned so that we can go over those. And of course, if you have any questions following listening to this podcast, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. So I hope everyone's having a great day so far. And as promised, I am live with Tara Torres. You guys have seen us go live quite a few times at this point, but just in case you are new to this and you need a refresher course, Tara, if you could go ahead and give them a little bit of background information about yourself and how you got started in nutrition.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tara Torres, and I'm located in Houston, Texas. Although originally from Anchorage, Alaska, I'm kind of a military brat. I've lived all over, but Houston is home now. I've been practicing nutrition off and on for, I think, since 2013. So I have my undergrad is in a bachelor's of science in nutrition science. I also have a master's in human nutrition and functional medicine, and I'm halfway through a doctorate program in clinical nutrition. So needless to say, I'm pretty passionate about nutrition, and it all started because I was diagnosed with celiac disease in my early 20s as I was getting out of the Army. I was just struggling with a lot of gut issues and fatigue, and at the same time, I was also diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So those are both autoimmune conditions. And the recommendation at the time was to go gluten-free, at which, it isn't as well known as it is now. Thank goodness. So many more people are talking about it. So many more restaurants and shopping centers are on board with gluten-free items. But at the time, I really struggled to know what gluten was, how to avoid it, how to cook for myself, and all of those things. And my gut was in such a disarray at the time that simply going gluten-free wasn't enough. So knowing what I know now, it's taken the better part of a decade to really, truly master gut health and understanding all of the different components. Because when your gut becomes damaged in that way, literally anything and everything can damage it. And you can get onto like such a restricted diet. And you really just don't know how to heal and okay, I can avoid all of these things, but how do I heal my gut and get back onto something normal? So I figured that out. And, now that I've gotten older in my mid 30s, I now, deal with hormone things, adrenal stress things. So I'm super passionate about helping other people navigate all the ins and outs of their individual nutrition, whether it's something like that or a different autoimmune condition or simply weight loss. I just have a healthy appreciation for what it's like to struggle and not know what to eat and how to do all of those things. So I really enjoy helping people navigate those waters.
Awesome. All right, so everything she just talked about, we're kind of going to touch a little bit on throughout the course of this conversation. Just want to give a little bit of background information as far as my setup. So
Please.
today's topic is very fitting. We're actually going to be going through some things and hopefully giving you guys ideas on how to eat while you're out and about and how to eat in a way that's, healthy but also not boring. Right now, I'm currently sitting in the parking lot getting ready for an appointment as soon as we get done with this conversation. But I just wanted to make sure that we kept our word for you all, and hey, this is real life. So, I mean, just like you all, you guys are out there busy doing your thing. You're trying to figure out how to make it work. And I thought, why not go ahead and shoot this podcast while I'm in the middle of doing the same thing? All right, so this is actually a Q&A, and we did ask for questions. And in the interest of time, I kind of want to go ahead and get right into it if you're okay with that, Sarah.
I'm ready.
All right, awesome. So the first one, I believe this was from Bobby. She wanted to know what are some ideas for meal prepping for resetting gut health, which is ironic because that's your specialty.
That is such a complex question and answer. And it's a very individualized approach because honestly, it depends on what exactly is going on with your gut. So there are so many different things from autoimmune conditions that affect our gut to just IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, where, it's really like the blanket diagnosis that people receive when we can't confirm or deny other things, right? Like you don't really fit the box of all these other things, but you have these issues going on. We also have people who have like dysbiosis or an imbalance of the gut microbiome. So that's where things can grow a little high or a little bit low. And that's what we call an imbalance. Like you really want your gut to be like this happy, healthy homeostasis environment. And when things start to drop down or overgrow, that's when things can get a little wonky and you can get a little symptomatic. And for some people, it's more of the constipation. For other people, it can be the other effects. For some people, it's bloating, reflux, like abdominal pain. Like there's so many different components to gut health and what that looks like to every individual. There's also like lesser known, I think, publicly recognized conditions like small intestine bacteria overgrowth, which is like a gas that can accumulate in your gut and cause those symptoms as well. And it's highly correlated with things like autoimmune conditions. So IBD, it can be diverticulosis. It could be really related just to like the imbalance of your gut. So we can treat that a number of different ways. And really what I want to hammer home before I go into that is just understanding the underlying root cause. And that can go as far back as like addressing somebody's stress or their eating patterns. It's very different, or it could be like a condition, right? So we have to address that first, but we can address it with diet. So first and foremost, anything I do as a clinical nutritionist before supplements and anything else, I always start with food. Let food be thy medicine. So we want to remove any of the current offenders, and we want to make sure that we're adding things that are going to help like rebuild and re-inoculate the gut. It's a very step-by-step fashion. We do things in a certain time. Sometimes in the beginning of like a gut protocol, it can be very restrictive, but it's always with the end goal of getting you back onto a normal diet. What is normal, right? That can look very different for everybody. But at the end of the day, we don't want you to feel like you're restricted, and we want you to have something that's healthy, conducive to your lifestyle, and what's going to make you not symptomatic anymore. Sometimes a part of that, we do have to use supplements. Sometimes it can be a digestive enzyme. Sometimes it can be an antimicrobial or something that's going to help decrease any bacteria overgrowth. It functions similarly to an antibiotic, but without the side effects. Sometimes we have to use what we call biofilm disruptors. Like there's a lot of different supplements and there's a lot of different nutrients. So if you are suffering from a gut disorder, sometimes we question, are you breaking down and absorbing your nutrients appropriately? Because sometimes we can starts with a gut disorder, but there's a lot of downstream effects, case in point, hormones and things like that, which require a lot of just different cofactors from vitamins and fiber and things like that. So as far as meal prepping tips for resetting your gut health, it's really an individualized approach. And so I would really recommend working one-on-one with a nutrition provider so that we can really understand what's causing it and really fine tune, develop a plan that works well for you with an end goal in mind to get you onto something normal. And again, normal is going to be just as individualized as the gut protocol.
Okay, awesome. And so I'm pretty sure you may have already answered this in some roundabout way, but just in case you haven't, are there any for someone who is interested in regulating their gut health, or maybe they just have questions in general, or maybe they've just been struggling with some issues and they're not quite sure, but they don't want to go to the doctor. Are there some things that you can suggest that people eat more of or less than, or less of, I should say? Um, Maybe to do some, I don't want to say pre-doctor tests, but where do they start? Maybe they don't want to go to the doctor. Maybe they just want to start like, hey, I know my stomach's not feeling right, and I just want to start eliminating some things. Where would you start as far as eliminating and testing?
So, a lot of times in my office, we'll start with a detox. And I hate using that word on forums like this because it can be misconstrued because that word has been used from everything from a 3 day to a 1 month juice cleanse or like sometimes starvation type diets, very restrictive type things. For me, it's a quick reset. And I mean, it can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 to 6 weeks. It just kind of depends. We do use some supplements, but from a food perspective, it's really like eliminating anything that could be causing an irritation to your gut. And a lot of times, like the top offenders are going to be things like gluten and dairy are your top two food sensitivities. It could be corn, soy, peanuts, seafood, shellfish, those types of things. Um, Help me refocus. Where was I? I feel like that was
Um,
my question.
I mean, that was probably it. I was just asking what are some foods that we can start eliminating from our diet or start to test with
Yeah.
to see if those things were kind of irritating our gut and whatnot.
Okay, so a detox. So I'm functional medicine trained. So a lot of the things and the methods that I use are by the Institute of Functional Medicine, and they have a food list and like a PDF that is called the detox diet, but it's part elimination diet. And a lot of people are probably familiar with elimination diets because they're exactly what it sounds like. We remove the top like 5 to 7 inflammatory potential food sensitivities in combination with promoting foods that detox you. So detoxification is not what people think it is, like the restriction. Like it's not a caloric restriction, it's the total opposite. We actually want you eating enough calories and vitamins and nutrients and things like fiber to support your body's natural detoxification system, right? But the problem is people are eating like a modern Western diet, and or our diet has become so modified that it doesn't have all of the nutrients that we need. So a lot of people are walking around chronically nutrient depleted or not getting enough protein, which is very important for that process. And so they don't have what it takes to properly do that. And so it's a good idea to sometimes consider like a therapeutic detox, like what we provide, once or twice a year. Really, again, it's like a very individual thing. Some people need it more than others, and that could be like a genetic thing. It could be a lifestyle thing. People who live in like a very metropolis area like Houston are exposed to all of the gas and oil plants that we have, the highways and things like that may need it more often than somebody who lives out in the country. Um, but specifically related to gut health, other things to look at are FODMAP foods. So FODMAPs are fermentable starches that sit in your gut. And ordinarily, we want those things in our gut to help ferment and build a happy, healthy gut microbiome, right? But when you have an imbalance in that gut, the more you eat those foods, it could potentially be contributing to feeding that overgrowth. And so we temporarily have to remove those foods. And there's food lists for this too. You can Google a low FODMAP diet, and there'll be tons of resources out there. What I want people to remember is that going on a low FODMAP diet is not recommended long term. If you have been following a low FODMAP diet and have been unsuccessful in reintroducing foods, please, 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 please seek out a nutrition professional who is a master in resetting the gut, because you may need the additional supplements or a different type of diet to help reset your gut. Otherwise, eating FODMAP foods is very healthy to support the gut microbiome.
Awesome. All right. So someone posted a comment. Maybe it's a form of a question. They said, "I've heard eating fermented foods helps with adding healthy bacteria to your gut. True or false?"
True, absolutely. So if you look at fiber, so if there was nutrients that we need to help support a gut microbiome, I think that was a part of your question, right? It was like, what can we eat to aid in that process? It 100% is fiber. So the recommendation for women is about 25 grams of fiber per day. For men, it's closer to 30 to 35 grams of fiber per day. A lot of times you can't really jump into that quickly. So if you're using a supplement, I always tell people like start with a quarter of the serving and wait a couple of days or the better part of a week or so and just slowly titrate up until your body can slowly get used to that fermentation. But yeah, so if you look at fiber is kind of like the fertilizer of the gut, you want to lay that down first. And then your probiotics from your fermented foods or supplements are going to be like the seed, and they're going to help support a healthy gut microbiome together.
Awesome. That was a great question. All right,
Yeah.
so I didn't mention this, but I am using something called StreamYard to do this broadcast on. And so I'm not always able to see whoever's posting the question. So if I don't say your name and you do comment, it's nothing personal. On my end, it just says Facebook user, and that could be anyone. But when this show is over, I will go back and actually look at my regular Facebook. And if we didn't answer your question, I'll definitely do my best to put you in contact with Sarah so she can give you a better answer. All
Mhm.
right, let's go ahead and move right along. All right, so let's talk about meal prepping tips to boost the metabolism.
Yeah. So protein. You always want to make sure when you're meal prepping that you're getting adequate protein. This can be done, usually we calculate calories and then we calculate percentage. There's a lot of different ways to do that, whether you're calculating, zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.5, zero point 0.8, 1 pound or 1 gram per pound of body weight or kilogram. Some people will say no less than 25% of total calories. Some people are closer to 30 to 35%. Again, this is very individualized because in some people, too much protein can actually be constipating. But in other people, or if you have low stomach acid, that may not break down very well and very happily for you. So putting people like that on a high protein diet is not ideal. Again, we want to address those things and get people digesting and absorbing it appropriately. But protein's very satiating. Protein's going to keep you fuller longer. So you want to make sure you're spreading that out and getting an adequate amount of protein throughout the day. You also want to make sure you're getting adequate, overall calories, not too low, not too high. There's again equations to do that, and it's based off of how active you are, exercise and daily activity, and your resting metabolism. You also want to make sure you're getting in appropriate amounts of fat. So I look at calories and protein, carbs, and fat as like a bank account. Like we all have a budget and we have to allocate our budget, our income to our bills, whether it's our rent or our mortgage, our light bill, water, groceries, etc. Right? If you overspend in one category, you may not have enough money for the other category. It's the same thing with our calories and our protein, our carbs, and our fat. If you overeat your fats, you may not have enough calories to consume your carbs and vice versa. So I always tell people like prioritize your protein, don't fear carbs. Carbs are just like so fear mongering, but they get a bad rap, but we need them to help support our energy, our workouts, our daily function, our hormones, our brain. And so you want to look at the type of carbs that you're getting. And I think that's where the conversation needs to be is, are you getting enough fiber? And same with low carb people. I always tell people like, I'm okay with experimenting with low carb as long as you're hitting your fiber intake and your gut is healthy. And same with fats. You want to make sure you're getting the healthy amount of fat. So like omega-3, anti-inflammatory things like avocado, olives, olive oil, nuts, and seeds, and try to minimize your intake of saturated fat, which is going to come from animal products, whether it's meats, red meats, or dairy products and things like that. So, as far as boosting your metabolism, make sure you're not going over or under your calories. Make sure you're getting adequate protein and make sure you're doing that dance between carbs and fats adequately. And that can be very individualized. That can be very genetic based too. And if you have certain health conditions, we're going to recommend one over the other. And, sometimes eating smaller, more frequent meals can help boost your metabolism. It's like maybe 5 to 10% plays a role in your metabolism. But yes, there is a thermic effect of like breaking down and absorbing your food, and it can help. But yeah, I think just like meal prepping in general is great for metabolism. Some people say to eat within like 30 to 60 minutes of waking. Other people prefer fasting. Um, I think with fasting, my biggest tip for that is to remember it's supposed to be on either bookend. You don't want to be skipping meals in between because that's where it can actually be detrimental for your metabolism. So once you start stoking that metabolism, just make sure you eat on through. And if anything, eat dinner sooner so that you begin your fast sooner, or eat breakfast later so that you can extend your fast longer. At the end of the day, we all fast at night when we go to sleep. It's just how long are you prolonging it, and are you starting it sooner or are you ending it sooner? Hopefully that helps.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That was a loaded answer, but I think you hit everything perfectly. I just wanted to add my 1 cent to that. So we
Yeah.
talk about, calculating macros and things like that. For my healthy clients to come in with no, no crazy medical backgrounds, I usually suggest that they use MyFitnessPal, because when you use MyFitnessPal, as you know, you go in there and you put in your information, and it pretty much asks you like how active are you. I'm gonna ask you what is your goal, and then it takes those things into account, and then it does that equation that you were talking about for you. And usually it's pretty generic as far as the output, and you can always specialize it or critique it and manipulate it to fit your particular goals or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish as far as getting more fats over proteins over more carbohydrates. But that's one great tip. And then also when you're talking about, breaking down those meals and potentially getting 5 to 6 meals a day, I always like to use the idea of, we're trying to stoke a small fire. You want to keep that fire burning all day. And so if you constantly feed it continuously at specific time frames, you never have to worry about being too hungry or being too
Mhm.
full. You actually have the right amount of energy. And obviously those things they should be bent around whatever your activity levels are too. I mean, if you're more active in one part of your day, you're probably going to eat a certain way and things like that. But I just thought what you said went perfectly with that analogy. That was great, really great.
Right. So let me also say that there's no right or wrong way to eat. Some people prefer 3 square meals a day because they don't have time to eat. Some people prefer the smaller, more frequent meals because they do get hungry and they feel like they need to eat, and that helps them not eat other bad things. What I will say is you want to make sure that you're eating every like 2.5 to 4 hours. So a lot of times where I see a big gap is between lunch at noon and people not eating until 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. So if that's you, you want to make sure you're at least getting in like a protein in mid afternoon, maybe some fruit, low glycemic index type stuff to help carry you through to dinner. Um, and then the other part about the MyFitnessPal and calculating your equations. So again, these are just equations. A lot of times, because of our lifestyle and just like the different effects, right? So if you have like insulin resistance or prediabetes, other things, those equations can be off by a couple hundred calories. So if you're using a program like MyFitnessPal and you're not getting the response that you need from those calories, I would suggest dropping it like 150 to 250 calories and see if maybe that's enough to kind of get you in just a little bit of a deficit to kind of get the ball rolling. And then if you note, minimum 25%, closer to 30, 35% protein, experiment with that. And then experiment with the ratio of fat and carbohydrates. Technically, anything less than 50% of your total caloric intake is technically low carb. Can you believe it? Ketogenic diets are like 5 to 10%. Of course, there's modifications to this. I've seen people do everything modified in between all of this. So I love dropping carbs and messing around with fats, and just kind of pay attention to your body and what those needs are. And also with the meal timing, sometimes people prefer that break because they need that break in between meals and not a snack so that their body can fully break down and absorb that food. So I wish I had a one answer and a one solution that fits everybody, but nutrition just isn't like that. It's a very unique and individualized thing.
Right, right. With most things, I think that's the case. I think one of the problems we run into, and I hate to like get on my soapbox, but one of the things that we run into quite often is everyone wants to fit inside a box. Everyone wants to hop on the latest trend, and that trend
Mhm.
may be useful to an extent if it's used the right way, but for most people, it's probably not the thing you should be even looking at. I mean, it may not even be the right approach for you personally.
Right.
Hence why personal training is such a great tool because it should be personalized. Not everyone's going to get to the same destination the same exact way, and maybe that's not even a destination for you.
Right.
All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and keep moving on. Not trying to rush you, but We got to get going here in a little bit. This one's going to be a really good one. Let's talk about the kids. So this one says the best meal preps for kids on the go that aren't super messy in the car. This is probably going to be gold.
I wish I had kids figured out. As a mom of a 6-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl, I'm still figuring it out. And just when you figure it out, they change their mind. And what you were making for them last week or the last couple of weeks or months or the last year of their life, all of a sudden they don't like it. So yeah, it's challenging enough to figure out the answer to this question, let alone with all of, the quirks that our kids throw away. But sometimes we're running in between baseball and softball games. I'm hitting the road personally with a smoothie in my hand. I don't see why a kid couldn't easily eat a smoothie as well. We have everything from like individualized, like those proteins that are already made in a bottle. Some are better than others. One that my kids personally love is called Orgain, and they have a kids version. It's a vegan or vegetarian one. And they also have a whey one. Personally, my kids prefer the whey one, but it is from grass-fed cows. So it's a brand that I would highly recommend. Super easy. They can sip on that in the car while you're on the go. Maybe put some toast in the oven or like a waffle or something that you can just like heat up really quick. And then they can hit the road and be snacking on a good healthy carb and a protein. Slap some peanut butter or almond butter on there on top, right? And just pray that they don't drop it in your car. And you have a healthy fat and a very round meal. Maybe put some fruit in a baggie. And I think you can translate that to breakfast, lunch, or dinner or a snack. Yeah, I think smoothies are a great option. I really think it depends on the kid, right? So like yogurts maybe would be a good option, or like those yogurts that they could drink. Again, some are better than others. If you can, try to prioritize organic. You could even put like a scoop of protein in that. You could put some granola on there. I just did a post about this, and we did like mason jars. So I don't know if that's an option, but there's a way. If you go to my Instagram, or my Facebook page, you can see how we did like mason jar snacks, everything from veggies with like a little bit of ranch dressing to like pretzels with a little bit of hummus on top, and they can do that. And then just make sure if you're in the car a lot, like I used to have a friend who nannied all the time and drove around with a bunch of kids from school to house and dropping off. And just like investing in the things that you need, like those little plates and things that you can put on the car seats or on their lap would go far in this situation. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. West said he's just here for the kid tips.
Hopefully that helps. And feel free to leave comments, because there's a lot of parents out here that juggle this very same thing. And I'm all for sharing the wealth. I am not the all-knowing one, like I said. So if y'all have tips that I did not mention, feel free to leave those in the comments so that other people can read them.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's go ahead and move on. This next one says, what's the best way to meal prep if you have an issue with preheated foods?
So my question when I saw this, and my immediate thought was, is this a histamine intolerance? Like you literally cannot, is that the issue? Like your body physically has an issue with reheated foods, or is this just like a preference thing? If it's just a preference thing, there's a lot of different ways you can handle that. So I guess I'm wondering, can you use a thermos to keep it heated? Or can you eat cold food? I come from the bodybuilding world. So when I was first diagnosed with celiac disease, I went like an all lettuce diet. And I was like, well, if I'm not going to eat anything, I'm going to make something out of this. And I got a coach and a trainer. And I was eating like cold chicken and rice and broccoli all day, every day. So, I'm a creature of habit though, and I don't mind those things. And I know some people don't mind those things. Other people are like, heck no, I need to have a warm, hot meal. For some people, it's a histamine problem. So leftover foods can build a histamine up in them. So if you have an intolerance, it could be like a genetic thing. Like maybe you don't produce enough of the DAO enzyme needed to break that down. There's also foods that contain histamine, and then there's foods that release histamine. So that's a whole nother conversation that maybe we can do on another day. If that's you, then you need to go on a low histamine diet, and you shouldn't have leftover foods. And we need to look at the types of foods that you're having. If it's just a preference thing, then you're going to have to start making either like cold sandwiches, cold cuts, and things that don't have to be heated, yogurt parfaits, protein shakes and things like that. Hopefully that answers that question.
Awesome, awesome. All right. This next question it asks, what are healthy foods you can eat to help with weight gain?
So I think similarly to anybody else, right? You want to make sure you're getting adequate protein. You want to make sure you're not shying away from your carbs and your fats. But you also want to make sure you're getting healthy types of carbs and fats. I think when people are trying to weight gain, it can be misconstrued in that they get to eat whatever they want, pizza, chicken nuggets, Whataburger, whatever. But we want to make sure that we're providing a good, healthy source of food, because you want to make sure that you're getting all of the, again, nutrients, vitamins, and fiber that's going to support a healthy microbiome and just overall health function. Um, when I'm working with people to gain weight, we're eating a lot more frequently, because again, it's hard to stuff as many calories as you need into one meal. And we want to make sure that you're actually going to break down and utilize that food appropriately. So spreading it out more frequently. And again, we're not talking about smaller, more frequent meals, but we're talking about larger, more frequent meals. Maybe we're doing protein shakes, because people can get sick and like eating. So maybe they prefer to do some protein shakes, some meals. And when we put together those protein shakes, we're doing kind of like a higher fat, like more calorically dense protein shake, so that they can hit those numbers and put on the weight that they need.
Awesome. To go along with that question, could you give us an idea of some healthy fat sources and also some great healthy whole grain sources?
Sure. So healthy fat sources are going to be anything that's anti-inflammatory. So saturated fats tend to be more pro-inflammatory. Well, I should say animal fats. So some dairy products, red meat. But again, if you're looking at like grass-fed, grass-finished red meat, some studies are starting to support the fact that those are actually not as inflammatory as non-grass-fed, grass-finished. But try to focus on things like olive oil. If you think of like the Mediterranean diet, that's a very like good textbook example of anti-inflammatory. So it promotes the use of olive oil, your nut seeds like walnuts, pumpkin seeds, almonds, all of your nuts and seeds, and nut butters. So not just the seeds and stuff, or like ground flax, like there's chia seeds, those types of things. Avocado is on there, olives, those types of things. And as far as grains, you want things that are going to be super fibrous and a low glycemic index. So when you're looking at pastas, go for like whole wheat or a lentil or a chickpea pasta versus like a refined white pasta. Quinoa is a good grain because it's high in protein. And your rices, so like brown rice, wild rice, you can do some jasmine and basmati. I mean, variety is the spice of life. Your brown rice tends to have more fiber in it, and versus the white rice. Whole wheat breads are like a good gluten-free bread, or a sprouted bread would be good. I'm trying to think. Lentils, your beans, and your legumes are all great carb sources because they're full of fiber. Same with potatoes. I try not to discriminate. So I never say never, but you try to focus on colors and variety. So have a sweet potato one day, have a red potato another day, have a brown rice another day, a lentil pasta another day. You know what I mean? To kind of get your variety. And any root vegetables are also going to be good. Also, your vegetables are going to be a great source of fiber. I know you mentioned grains, but just to kind of be all encompassing, and then like
Mhm.
fruits as well.
Awesome. All right, awesome, awesome. Moving right along. Uh, breakfast. All right, so they're looking for some good to go breakfast ideas, specifically something they can eat in the car.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to go back to the smoothie. I often am sipping on a smoothie. And so remember, when you're putting together a smoothie, you need a good base. So whether it's a dairy milk, if you're somebody that can tolerate milk and doesn't have any issues with that, go for it. If you are somebody with issue to dairy, go for like an almond milk, a rice milk, coconut milk, whatever your dairy-free alternative is. So that's going to be your base. You want to put like a cup or a handful of fruit in there. It could be berries, mixed berries. It could be a banana, half a banana to a full banana, a handful of vegetables. I prefer like spinach, Um, you also want to make sure you have a protein. So this is where protein powders come in handy. And then you have your proteins and you have your carbs. Now we're missing a fat. So a lot of times I'll recommend flax oil because it's an omega-3. It's anti-inflammatory. It's really good for hormones. I just work with a lot of people with hormone issues. But you could also do like ground flax. You could do chia seeds. Again, these are fibrous things too. So I'm thinking healthy, anti-inflammatory fat. How can I get my fiber in? You could also do like a nut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, peanut butter, like whatever butter you want. So just be cognizant of serving sizes and that you're hitting your macros appropriately. You could also just do like a pre-made shake, right? We talked about Orgain protein. The thing is, those aren't going to have a lot of fat in them. So if and they're not going to have any carbs. So yeah, you're getting your protein, but you might be hungry very quickly later on if you're not hitting your overall calories. So just make sure if you're doing a protein shake like that you're combining some toast or a waffle or something with a healthy fat on top of it, whether it's avocado or an almond butter itself, something like that. You also can consider oatmeal. So like overnight oats are a good thing, or just fresh made in the morning. You can pair that with some eggs, some turkey bacon, turkey sausage, chicken sausage, whatever, right? Because again, when you're putting together a meal, I always want you to ask yourself, where is your protein? If you're looking at a plate, it's where's my palm size serving of protein? So like my palm size for me, John would eat his palm size because he's a man. He's going to have a bigger hand. He has a higher protein intake than me. So remember that. Half a plate of vegetables. And then that leaves you with what? Maybe like a quarter of your plate for starch. So same thing with your like smoothies and anytime you're putting together a meal. Where's my protein? Where's my starchy vegetable carb side? I'm sorry, vegetables or fruit. And then where's my starch? So yeah, oatmeal is great too, but that's literally just your carbs. What's going to be your protein? Are you pairing that with hard-boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, sausage, turkey bacon, something like that? Or are you putting a scoop of protein in there? Are you doing less animal protein and more like nuts and seeds and things like that to get your protein and healthy fats in? Breakfast burritos are also a great meal prep option because you can literally wrap them up in like paper towel and tinfoil, and you can freeze them for the week and just nuke them and hit the road. And again, the tortilla would be your carb, and you would be putting in like your eggs and your sausage or your bacon. That would be your protein. If you're looking for fats, you could do like an avocado, or maybe you count the yolk as your fat. Put some salsa in there. Salsa's free. It's a vegetable, right? The other thing is yogurt parfaits. Yogurt parfaits are good. You could drink it. If you're very good at driving, you could do a spoon. I don't know. But with a yogurt parfait, there's going to be some protein in there, some carbs. So maybe top it with some fruit and granola to really hit your carbohydrates and get your fiber, and add in a scoop of protein to really max out your protein. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome, awesome. All right, we have a question. So they're asking, they were told that some lunch meats are not great for you, but if they can't do reheated meat very well, are there lunch meat brands you recommend for a cold sandwich or a wrap on the go?
Um, Reheated, can't do reheated meat very well. So why can't you do reheated meat? That's what I want to know. Is this like a low stomach acid thing where you're not breaking down meat appropriately? Is it a histamine option? And yes, lunch meats are not recommended. So processed meats are actually correlated with a higher risk of cancer, specifically colon cancer. So you definitely want to tread carefully with that. They also have like added salts and preservatives, and they're just processed. So yeah, I think there are better brands out there. If you can get like an organic antibiotic free one or fresh from the deli without the preservatives, that's better. So I operate in like a good, better, best case scenario. I think the best case scenario is avoiding it altogether. Then next best would be to buy like organic, antibiotic free, specific brands. So I live in Texas. We have a HEB here, and I love HEB brand things because they have, number one, they're cheaper, right? If you can get the grocery store brand, whether it's Kroger, HEB, or whatever you have near you, they typically have like their own brands. And if it's not organic itself, so like HEB partners with Central Market, and so you can buy organic stuff that's theirs. But then, so that would be like the best. So the next best thing would be like antibiotic free, hormone free, those type of words to look for. And if it's a texture thing, I mean, I don't eat lunch meat. I would focus on proteins that you can have. Can you have a protein shake instead, or can you meal prep chicken and just kind of munch on that? So in the past, when I've worked with people who meal prep often, I'll tell them just to make a big batch of like at least two different proteins, whether it's chicken and turkey or pork, like some combination so that you have options, you don't get sick of it. But sometimes you just have to kind of weigh out and measure your protein of choice and eat that instead, whatever your texture preference is. I hope that helps.
Awesome, awesome. Let's see. What we got?
Okay. She said it does. A protein shake. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right, cool, cool. We can give it a few more seconds, see if we have any more questions.
Let
And
me round out the conversation if you don't have any more questions. I wanted to
go
talk
for it.
about meal prepping. So when you guys are meal prepping, always start by making a list first. So, before I go to the grocery store, this is where people fail, right? They go into the grocery store and they don't have a plan. So you need to sit down and map out, this is what I'm going to have for breakfast every day. This is what I'm going to make for dinner every day. And are you going to make enough dinner so that you have enough for leftovers the next day? Or are you going to make a separate lunch, whether it's a sandwich or a wrap or something from the office? You know what I mean? And are you cooking every single day? Or are you trying to cook every 2 or 3 days? As a mom to very active sports kiddos, I cannot cook every single day. So if I'm not proactive and looking at my schedule and mapping out when I'm going to cook and not cook, I may or may not have enough leftovers. So what is this saying? I know you're in the Marine Corps. So what is it? Fail to plan, plan to fail.
Yep.
I know you know what I'm
There
talking
it is.
about.
Mhm.
You have to sit down and plan out. So if you have a menu, then you go through and you do what? You make your grocery list. I know that I'm going to have eggs 5 times this week. So I need this many eggs. I need this many pieces of toast. I need this much chicken, pork, sausage, vegetables, starches, blah, blah, blah. Make your list, go to the store, get it. And then what do? You go home and you make it. You either meal prep for the whole week or you meal prep for a day or 2 or 3 days. So, we have tools to help with that. We have a meal plan, very cost effective. You can do it, sign up on your own. You can try a week for free. If you like it, great. But I just wanted to encourage people to sit down and plan it out. Nothing's going to happen if you don't sit down and make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that goes across the board for pretty much anything.
Right.
All right, awesome. So I didn't see any other comments or questions pop up, but I do have one last one for you. What are
Okay.
your final thoughts or words of advice for anyone struggling with getting on track with their nutrition?
Find your support system. It can be very daunting and isolating when you don't have people around you going through the same thing. So go and seek out professional help, whether it's a personal trainer or a nutrition professional. Surround yourself with like minded people. Join a gym. You have everything from cheap Planet Fitness to expensive things like Lifetime Fitness. You go and find your community, and sure, you may not know anybody. I didn't know anybody at my gym, but I started going every single day or maybe every couple of days, like whatever your routine is. And people are going to start recognizing you. People are going to start like waving to you. If you go to a fitness class, those people are so good at putting together a community and doing community plans. You hire a personal trainer and they're really good at putting together community plans as well. Same with nutritionists. Sometimes we host community events. Find an online forum. John's really good at putting together a online group. So, and even like your social media, who are you following? And who are you surrounding yourself? Like those are subconscious messages. Find the people who are on your journey. I've had people who have gone through like bariatric surgery. Go find people on social media who are sharing their journey and follow them because they share their tips. And it's motivating and it's going to encourage you, especially if people in your house or your friends and the people you hang out with aren't necessarily on the same journey. And don't wait until Monday. Like if it's Wednesday, like why not start today? Why not start? It's right now, it is Friday afternoon. It's after lunch. Like, why can't I start at dinner tonight or at breakfast tomorrow or go grocery shopping tomorrow and start then? Like, why does everything have to start on Monday? Like we all give ourselves that. So don't wait, and just be careful who you surround yourself with.
Awesome. And then last but not least, where's the best place to reach you?
Sure. So skytherapeutic.com is the best place. You can contact me through there. You can email me. It's info@skytherapeutic.com. You can call or text me 832-800-3223. I am on Facebook and Instagram. So at Tara Torres Nutrition or at Sky Therapeutics with an S on either of those. And feel free to reach out. I also do complimentary discovery calls. So if you're unsure, if you have other questions, like let's hop on a quick 20-minute discovery call and see if this is a good fit. I believe in like making sure that relationship is something that's conducive. This is a very personal journey, and I want to make sure it's a good fit for both of us. I'm happy to answer any questions. One thing earlier that you asked me about was testing. We do testing. We do stool testing. We do hormone testing. We do conventional labs. That's all something that can be mapped out in an individual appointment, but you certainly have options. And we work collaboratively. John and I work collaboratively as a personal trainer and nutritionist combo, but I work with private practices. So why am I blanking on I want to say PCP, your primary care provider. We work with gastroenterologists. We work with hormone doctors, endocrinologists. This is a collaborative effort, and you shouldn't be alone in this journey. So please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. Do you have anything else for the people?
I don't. Thank you for letting me ramble. I love talking about nutrition, and I appreciate you having me on all of the time and just being patient with me and letting me answer all these questions for your friends and clients. So thank you for having me.
Hey, I appreciate you making the time to show up. It means a lot.
Of course.
All right, awesome. So that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for Tara. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Looking forward to doing another one. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Tara personally or just drop down in the group or on our personal page and just start asking. And I'll do what I can to make this thing happen for you all again. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, I have nothing else for you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. If you do Halloween, be safe out there and all those other great things that people usually say. That's going to do it for me. Hope you guys stay safe, stay well, and as always, keep pushing because your greatness awaits.
Thank you for listening to the Sky Therapeutics podcast with your host, that's me, Tara Torres. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to check out any bonus info and links in the show notes. You can visit us at www.skytherapeutic.com or find us on social media because we love connecting with our audience. Until next time, be well.